Today, Marti Fontani from Italy asked me, "You've travelled to study and learn and be with Indigenous peoples. Why did you do that?" And it's a marvellous question to answer from this beautiful 4-acre property that I'm currently on. So if in the background you're hearing birds or the dog or the sounds of nature, it's one of the very reasons that I went to study and learn from Indigenous peoples, is that they are so connected with the earth and with spirit and with multiple ways of knowing through our whole physical sensory being, through our imaginal being, through our spiritual being, through connecting with the earth, water, all of the elements, fire, air, earth. And as Westerners, especially when language started to become written and then in book form, we have become so disconnected from these multiple ways of knowing. So if you can imagine before the word was written and we had our whole body knowing and connection with the earth to make sense of the world, we were very different people, and some peoples across the world have still kept that whole body knowing. But when the word was written and people could now read what somebody was saying, but they weren't in the same land as that person, and so they had to abstract and make meaning from the word without the physicality, the physical experience of being in that land and with that person. And so, yes, the word being written and language and books and technology are amazing, and they have expanded our consciousness in one form. And we have developed amazing things with technology. But we have lost something as well. So that focus on the written word and language, which is often really abstract and conceptual, it's often linear or objective, has meant that we have become limited with our focus, limiting our knowledge and information from our brain knowing. And even though people now say, oh yes, we can now think from our left brain and our right brain, and we can now use those dimensions, there's more than that. As a management consultant, I was always taken with Einstein's quote that we can't solve the problems of the world with the very thinking that created them. And I used to think, well, if a lot of the problems from the world have come from logical, linear, rational, objective thinking, if we now think systemically, if we think holistically, if we think from an economist viewpoint, a spiritualist viewpoint, an environmentalist viewpoint, a socialist viewpoint, that by thinking about the whole system, we can then create better solutions for the world. But in fact, I've even moved beyond that, because even that is still thinking from what I'd call brain intelligence, rather than thinking and knowing and gaining wisdom from our whole body intelligence. Westerners now know that intelligence just doesn't reside in the brain. It also resides in our heart. It resides in our gut. It resides in every cell of our being. There's even a study now of epigenetics, of the cells in our body having knowledge from our ancestors. So Indigenous peoples have contained and held on to that whole body wisdom. So I think that it is time to learn from accessing our whole body wisdom, learning from Indigenous peoples, as well as from Western thinking. I'm not talking about throwing away the baby with the bathwater. I'm talking about using all knowledge, to create wisdom. Because if we have so much information in the world through books, technology, people with university degrees, PhDs, but where's the wisdom? Where's the wisdom of knowing what the Buddhists would say, right action? So yes, I travelled to Indigenous peoples in the middle of Australia and walked a songline, and with a beautiful man called Dr. John Broomfield, who in fact has written a book, Multiple Ways of Knowing, from all his work with Indigenous peoples and shamanic peoples. I've been to Namibia and had my body painted with the Himba women. And we only had the language of our bodies and our spirits, because we didn't have the same, they couldn't speak English, I couldn't speak their language, but we still communicated beautifully through our whole body knowing and awareness. I then also camped with the people in Africa, the Zulu people. I've been to Soweto, I've been to Lesotho, and I met with the Sangoma woman, the medicine woman, without having any spoken English. She knew that the relationship that I was in through throwing the bones was not healthy for me. And I didn't tell her anything about my life. So there is so much more in the world than what we think. We just have to start opening to it. And connecting with nature is a really good way to start opening and connecting to our whole body wisdom. The way you did as a child, when you played and explored and you tasted and you touched and you noticed and you imagined things. So this was a little bit longer than what I was thinking about my answer to you, Marty. So yes, there is much to learn from Indigenous peoples and from nature and from opening ourselves to the unknown. I'll see you next time.